This episode of the PC Perspective Podcast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price, because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/PCPER and enter code PCPER. Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 371, being recorded on October 14th, 2015. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hallstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
And it's here. We got another week of stuff to talk about. We're going to call this the ASUS Hour once we get past the ad break today.
The ASUS Hour of Power.
That's right. Yeah, every time a minute passes, you have to take a shot of ASUS. And whoever's still standing at the end loses?
I love ASUS juice.
I guess. I'm going to go with...
ASUS needs your money.
Okay. Siri was listening to me the whole time, and I don't...
It was like, I don't see...
Sure.
I don't see insert bad translation of what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In any event, welcome to the show, everybody.
Every time we say ASUS, take a shot.
Of something.
Of ASUS juice.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Okay.
We do record the show live on Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we do that at pcper.com/live. I had to remember for a second. It took me a while. And I'm getting very confused by the mouse next to this laptop, but the mouse is not attached to this laptop. It is attached to a separate laptop. And it's really, really getting to me. And I can only imagine that's going to get worse throughout the evening. If you want a reminder about when we do these shows live, you can sign up for our mailing list at pcper.com/subscribe. It looks like this. You just get a little form here that asks for your name and your email.
Wrong mouse.
You hit submit. And you get signed up for our mailing list, and we'll send you a little note, an hour or 2 hours before we do our live stream. So you can make sure you're here and join into the chat room and have a bunch of fun with us there. And maybe we'll even put links to funny Photoshops that people do of us where Ken is a dog and I'm a woman. And that's a little bit unnerving to me now that I said it out loud in such a way.
Surprisingly
That's okay.
accurate.
I don't have a brain.
You don't have a brain.
That's kind of.
But they got the hair, like the red hair and like the hairiness correct, right? Like that one at least fits better than most, I would say, in terms of the Photoshop. So you have to go into the chat room and find the Twitter message that somebody sent us about that. It's we'll say interesting. It's interesting. So let's talk about the stuff that happened this week. Alan, you posted a story, which I will be the first to admit. When you told me what you were doing, I was like, wow, I could not imagine anything less exciting and less useful for me
Ryan
than
looked
hearing about
Ryan looked over and saw a 40-inch Seiki full of technical documents on specs and standards for SD cards, and he's like, "What are you doing over there?"
So you wrote up a piece that you were originally going to include in a review, and a couple of us said, "Hey, well, let's make this a separate thing." It seems to have done a good job with that. This is SD card speed classes, grades, bus modes, file systems explained.
Yep.
And it's interesting in that,
these are all the things you see on the front of SD card packaging or in the specs, and you might not necessarily have a freaking clue what any of it does.
I saw this 3 in a bucket and this 1 in a bucket, and I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. They've got a 1 in a bucket. And it's actually
a letter
U3, U1. So what is kind of the takeaway from all this, right? Like, it's interesting. This first table talks about speed classes, but these are minimums, not like expected.
They're all minimums.
Okay.
Everything on that chart is just minimum write speeds. So the
doesn't
idea
talk about read speeds at all.
No, nothing to do with reads.
Huh. Okay.
It's write speeds. The reads will generally go much faster than that anyway because it's flash memory. So the writes are always slower on flash memory. But yeah, the idea is you put this in a camera or a video recorder because that's what those cards are mostly used for.
Right.
So all of those specs there have to do with minimum, sending data to that card, right?
Minimum serial data.
Mm-hmm. And it's most importantly, it's for video.
Sure.
Right? Because with the camera, you could take a still and you might kind of fill up the buffer sooner if the card is slower. It's not that big of a deal.
If you're doing burst modes or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with video, it's kind of vital. right? And the rates are not that fast even. Like the fastest of those specs is only 30 meg per second.
Right, and that's what they recommend for 4K video recording.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So interesting.
So basically, looking at those numbers alone doesn't really tell you any kind of the picture. If you want to know, like,
sure,
it's just is it compatible enough, right? Is it going to work like in my camera and not like drop frames in a recorded video, or just not, that kind of a thing. But it doesn't tell you anything as far as like how quickly can I empty the card, how. That sort of stuff. Like how fast can that card actually communicate if you put it in a system that has a really fast card reader, like actually that Lexar. No, I forgot the name of that whole unit, but that Lexar unit with the 4 pods in it.
Right, USB 3 kind of card reader. Any reasonably fast USB 3 card reader.
Yeah, but those U grades also indicate that it's a UHS bus mode. So it gives a hint that the card might be able to go, in this case, much, much faster.
Okay.
Because the UHS speed grades
down here?
go all the way up to 312 meg per second out of an SD card.
Okay.
Which is pretty darn fast.
So yeah, up here, max bus speed 312 megabytes per second and 52 megahertz. It's my favorite megahertz.
And
is that 2.88 watts?
Yes. That's the maximum allowed power draw of those cards.
And it's interesting because those are passive devices.
They are.
So it's how much power can your camera or card reader
supply to the card.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. And if you scroll down a little further, there's actually that is the UHS 2 standard, which adds more pins.
Yeah, like if you look at this, so this is the micro SD one on the right. That's a lot of pins on a tiny little thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. We actually have one of those cards in, and it's able to do like 150 meg per second on reads.
Wow.
It's pretty darn fast, just considering it's that little tiny card like that. So it's basically just the way that these things have evolved over the years. Just to go faster and faster.
Right.
But even the ones that do go faster, it's very rare to find, even right now, if you buy even a modern SLR, chances are it's not going to go into a UHS mode to write to the card. It will probably just be like,
So the performance differentiators on SD cards and micro SD cards is really about the other side of the picture.
Yeah.
Right? It's about loading it back onto your PC, importing those photos, importing those videos, that type of thing.
Yeah, basically.
Still.
And that's where if you can, if you're really looking to unload cards quickly, you'd want to get a card that can do UHS 2, which actually has like a II
this thing
on
right
the
here.
card. Yeah. Looks like 2 Roman eyes on there in a row. So those are going to go, like at a minimum, the bus speed will be 156 meg per second. That's if it's in full duplex mode, which can write and read at the same time. Basically, it's writing over one half of those added pins, and it's reading from the other half of those added pins, the added row of pins.
Right.
But again, even though we have all those are all just bus speeds, which is the equivalent of saying like SATA 6 gigabit. Right? Doesn't mean the SSD is going to go the full 6 gigabit, right? Now they kind of all do.
Sure.
But SD cards are not to that point yet, right? Every UHS 2 SD card you buy doesn't automatically go 312 meg per second.
So is that what this X speed rating is?
That's what the X speed ratings are. And those are optional. They're not part of the requirement per the spec.
Okay.
I
this
included
Lexar Professional shows 2000X, but this Kingston here doesn't show jack.
It doesn't show anything.
Okay.
And
this one says Elite Performance.
Yeah.
Now, it does say 90 megabytes per second.
Yeah, actually, the best one on there was the Panasonic card. It didn't give you an X rating, but it gave you the actual...
A read and a write, yeah.
It gave you a read, and it gave you a write. Getting a write speed is very, very rare on the label of these things. But, if you're going to put something on there, and you're not required to put either, you're probably just going to put the bigger number, right?
Yeah, you start looking at some of these labels now. So this has the Roman numeral 2U3, 280 megabytes per second. Yep, 300 megabytes per second. Yep.
And the funny thing was with the SanDisk one right there, I actually had a different SanDisk card picture that was UHS 1, not 2. And and it was only like 95 meg per second. But other than those two small changes to the label was identical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's like you have to really be looking for, like, I want to know how, okay, let's look for a meg per second, or let's look for, Roman numeral 2, that sort of stuff.
So does the speed of do these cards change as the capacity fills up in any way?
Not really.
In reads or writes?
Well, only because you wouldn't do what you would normally do to an SSD to slow it down to one of these cards. Yeah, you don't hit these with
You're
random.
doing serial data in.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, you could read them at random, like random access.
Sure, but that doesn't
and
affect.
it's great. It's flash memory does that just like it does it sequentially. Okay. Doesn't really affect anything. But yeah, the writes are meant to be sequential, and they're also meant to be aligned a specific way, which leads us to
the last part,
of
file
this,
systems.
which is the file systems.
Yeah.
There's if you go down a little bit further, I think there's that disk management picture, which shows a few different SD cards there, right? So there's like 16 gig, 64 gig, and a 512 gig. All three of those are SD cards, and a couple of them have like extra unallocated space at the beginning of them.
Right. Yep.
At least as far as Windows understands. And that's like by design. The cards came that way. And your first instinct might be to be like, that doesn't look right. Let me get rid of that partition and I'll remake the new partition. Well, you might actually be like reducing life of the SD card if you do that, or reducing the write performance if you do that. Because if that partition isn't aligned the way that the SD card is meant for it to be aligned, right? Yeah. The active space, the space you might actually put files, then you're kind of, it would be the same thing as like when you used to use SSDs that were 4K aligned with like Windows XP, right? Same kind of thing. The offset is a little bit different. You might actually wear it out quicker. It might not perform as well.
Yeah.
So, and when I was researching this piece, it was only then that I learned that there is an SD card association formatter. That's a Windows.
Yes.
It's a Windows and a Mac utility,
okay.
And it will do exactly. I verified this. It will do the exact same thing that a camera that formats the card in the camera to that same spec will do.
Gotcha.
Like the partition comes out the exact same alignment either way, which is good, right? There's a way to get it back. The other way is, just with your camera. And then the very last thing to bring up here is that there is, if you probably got to scroll, there's this weird compatibility little crisscross arrow matrix thing.
Yep.
And that has to do with SD card, regular SD cards, SDHC and SDXC. And all those things have nothing to do with the speeds as much as they have to do with the possible capacities that you can have stored on them.
Okay.
And the file system changes. Like you've got...
this makes sense. You're basically saying everything is backwards compatible to SD.
Yeah. But it's basically a FAT16, FAT32, and then EX-FAT.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty much how that works,
yeah.
right?
Look at that graph. It makes sense.
And you can have a FAT32 partition that goes larger than 2 gig or larger than 32 gig. It's possible. But it might not be something that the device expects to see, right? If it sees SDXC,
gotcha.
And it's, think about it, it's just like a camera firmware. It's not super complicated and like mounts a file system the typical way that an operating system, like a full-blown operating system would do. It's just like some little bit of code in the firmware that's like, okay, the card's this big, must be this kind of partition, because that's what the standard, calls for.
Huh.
So just be careful, right? It's the idea is like make sure you're using the right, leave the card formatted how it was when you got it, or reformat it with that formatter, or format it in the camera. Do one of those things because you might corrupt the data that's on the card. You might see a weird thing like you have a 64 gig card, and once you've written 32 gig, it like rolls over and starts rewriting over.
That would be bad.
Over the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually a possibility.
Yeah.
So it's the kind of things that would bite you in the butt only after like you had important stuff on the card.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, your file system just evaporated like at the halfway full point. That would be bad. So yeah, basically just all sorts of information and words of caution, and anything you could ever want to know about SD cards is all on this one page.
Check it out. And then this is pending. We'll have at least a review up relatively soon.
There are several reviews coming, all have to do with cards that take advantage of the higher parts of these specs.
All right. Let's dive into other stuff that happened. This machine, if you're watching the video version, this machine that's sitting here that is rather large and has this red background on it with a dragon. If you notice, his eye is illuminated. Josh, does it frighten you?
Yes.
Does it frighten you?
Yeah, look at that crap.
Yeah, it should. It should. This is the MSI GT72S Dominator Pro G, and in particular, because that model number is not new to the world of MSI laptops, this is the one featuring the full performance desktop class GTX 980 GPU in it. Right, so if you remember a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back, Ken and I went to New York, saw NVIDIA. They showed us all the machines using the new GTX 980. This is one of those machines. We posted up a quick preview of it. Not a whole lot of detail in this quite yet. I just wanted to get something out there since we got it in early. It's a hell of a machine.
Yeah.
It's 17.3 inches. It's thick. It's got 6 USB 3.0 ports on it. Right? It's got 4 audio connections on this side. It's got a Blu-ray burner.
That's pretty much a desktop class system just jammed into a laptop.
It's got a 6820 HK processor. It's a Skylake unlocked quad-core hyper-threaded processor.
Overclockable.
Yeah. Yep.
In a laptop.
The GPU is overclockable. And it's got mini display port, USB 3.1, and HDMI output for display, so you could have triple monitors hooked up to this. Gigabit, Ethernet, and obviously a power input. I like the red styling on it. 32 gigs of RAM, GTX 980 with 8 gigs of memory on it. It has 2 NVMe PCIe SSDs running in RAID 0.
951s, right?
Yep. It's a
The hard to get
1080p,
ones.
1080p 75 hertz G-Sync monitor panel in it.
Mobile G-Sync.
Mobile G-Sync. It really has anything you can want it.
Yeah.
I literally can't think of anything to add.
Like, I would like that USB 3.1 to be Thunderbolt, maybe.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a
Okay.
thing. But USB 3.1 does support display output, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you still get display throughput on it. The downside to this is that it's $3,099 is its MSRP,
Yeah.
which is $500 more than the same configuration, or almost the same configuration, with the GTX 980M instead of the GTX 980.
But it comes with a backpack.
But it does come with a backpack,
So
which
it's
is over my
so
desk.
it's another
It
$500?
needs to come with a backpack. It's an expensive machine, and NVIDIA was pretty upfront about that. They said, look, this is not for people who are worried about performance per dollars, people
Yeah.
who want the best of everything all the
But
time.
now there's a $2,500 gaming laptop. It's not for people who are concerned about performance per dollar.
No, but
No.
$500 is $500.
It is.
Yeah.
Right? It is so.
But it does perform way better than 980M.
So, yeah,
right?
so like the storage, we got up to 3 gigs per second on it, blah, 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 whatever. Real quick
Blah, blah,
summary
blah.
on performance.
3 gigs per
because
second in a laptop.
we have a
Blah, blah,
full
blah.
review coming. Is like Crysis 3, 1080p, very high, 4x MSAA. On the previous machine, we got 36 frames per second. On this one, we get 46 frames per second. On GTA 5, we go from 52 to 62. So you're talking anywhere from 20 to 30% additional battery life. Or, I'm sorry. No, definitely not that. 20 to 30% additional performance for gaming out of this machine with the 980 instead of the 980M.
Okay.
Here, Ken brought me this. This is the backpack that you get with it.
Yeah, that's just
Makes it look kind of like a Ninja Turtle.
You do look a little bit like an
Is it reinforced on the bottom?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's real strong. Yeah. That might be.
Well, the bottom is not. Well, I think there's a pouch that it slides into that's not. I don't think the laptop just sits against the bottom.
Oh,
You know what
no,
I mean?
no, definitely not that. Yeah.
That's a good feature.
I used this backpack to take the laptop home so I could play Battlefront and stuff while that beta was going on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was
Nightly.
good timing on my part, or on MSI's part, I guess. We'll have a review of this I'm working on. We're going to look at the CPU performance because it's the first time we've seen a Skylake, and we're going to see how far it overclocks.
Yep.
We'll talk about noise levels and all that, but a very impressive machine.
Crank up the fans enough for it to hover over the table.
I mean,
Hey,
you were here when we
now
were
you're
playing
talking.
Battlefront on
Oh
it.
yeah,
It
playing
wasn't-
Battlefront. It really was.
It wasn't that loud.
It was
like
still
it was
pretty
audible.
quiet.
Like you could definitely hear it.
Yeah.
But it would be easy to see how if you had on headphones or speakers that it would never.
Honestly, just
an issue.
just listening to the game was enough to overpower the sound that the fan was making.
So that's the GT72S Dominator Pro G, and there's a 3-digit moniker after GT72S, which will help determine, like, tell you which one this is specifically.
Just
in
look
terms
at
of
the price. It's
configuration.
fine.
Yeah,
but
just go by the price.
$30.99 is the one you'll look at.
This one's ludicrous price.
Yeah.
All right. Must have
That's
everything.
a lot of dollars, guys. That's a lot of dollars. Let's move on. I even have this one here too. We posted a review of the Lenovo Stack ThinkPad stack.
Yep.
We talked about this at CES, I think, way back in January, if you guys remember that. And this is a collection of accessories from Lenovo that do this. They come apart very easily.
Yep.
And they're magnetic. And what's interesting about them is that they have this interface on it here. Actually, this is easier to show on the story. They have this interface, and that interface transfers power and data between the devices.
Pogo pins.
So here I have a portable. This is the external battery, 10,000 milliamp hour battery, right?
So what happens if you rub your tongue over it?
Just like how you test any other battery.
Do it.
No.
I dare you.
No.
It starts tingling.
So you've got this 10,000 milliamp hour battery, and here is a wireless router, like a portable wireless router. You can power it through micro USB, or do that.
What?
Boom. Now I can turn on the green light, and now we have a portable router and battery.
Yep.
Right.
Shocking.
Now I have this 1 terabyte external hard drive, and I add that on top of that. Now it doesn't
And you
need
slap
power.
it on there because you don't care that it's
And
a
now-
spinning drive.
Exactly.
And now not
It
only
wasn't spinning when I plugged it
not
in.
only is that storage, but that storage available over the network
Right.
on the router.
So this is just
you got the router plugged
it's
in.
got a portable hard drive with
No,
USB
it's a
3.0
wireless
connection,
router.
but it's a wireless router, right? And so that creates a connection between the two devices that is
Yep.
USB.
Yep.
So now the hard drive is connected to the router through USB, so it shows up as a network attached storage,
Yeah.
right? And then
pretty sweet.
we finish it off with this, a Bluetooth speaker.
Which doesn't need to be in the stack at all.
It doesn't really need to be in the stack because it
Yeah.
has its own internal battery, but it can use this battery
It's like an aim
To
stack.
charge.
as well.
Like will charge the Bluetooth speaker off of the other battery? Is that how that
Yeah,
works?
yeah,
Okay.
it will. And so it has a microphone on it too, so you can use it for conference calls or regular calls or whatever, right? It's not just a speaker, and the speaker sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
Surprisingly for its size, I think everybody in the office was a little bit shocked by it.
So how
it's-
long will
it's a
that
pretty
like
neat-
run?
I'm not sure. Like, I mean, it obviously depends on what else you have hooked up to it.
Depends on what you're doing a lot.
They claim
I
this
would
will run
imagine.
8 hours by itself.
Okay.
All right,
I could believe it.
we'll see. It's a 10,000 milliamp hour battery, so I think for a pretty good while.
Yeah, just router to hard drive. It
Yeah,
should-
because the hard drive's not really using much power because you can use it without any power
just bus
attached
powered.
to, it's just bus powered, right? It's USB
Well, it's taking
bus
power.
power.
I mean,
yeah, but I mean, it's
it's not a lot.
not a lot.
Yeah.
And the software implementation is actually pretty good. If you look down here in the story, like they have a piece of software called the ThinkPad Assistant. Now I got to turn all this stuff off. The ThinkPad Assistant.
Someone was asking if the speaker affects the hard drive.
No. I mean, there's magnets all over.
Yeah.
No, it means
Everything.
the vibration of the speaker.
It's
but
not-
I don't think
no.
It doesn't
if, you,
vibrate.
if you listen to, what is it, dubstep, then you deserve any data corruption.
That
It
speaker-
doesn't have that much bass.
that
It's
speaker
not
wouldn't
really
do
gonna
well on
anything to
dubstep.
it.
Yeah.
Nothing would.
But the software, like the ThinkPad Assistant, is what you use to like set up the router the first time. But you can actually use it to monitor, the power bank, the speaker. You can access data on the hard drive, move stuff over back and forth. It's a much better application for iOS and Android than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Right?
It looks pretty nice.
And it looks fine at the same time. Now the problem is pricing, right? So the hard drive performs fine. It's a 1 terabyte spinning hard drive through USB 3. Talking about 120 megabytes per second.
Okay.
Read speeds, it's fine. The wireless router does well. It's 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. It has a hardwired Ethernet connection as well. The Bluetooth speaker sounds good. The 10,000 milliamp hour battery has 10,000 milliamp hours of battery in it, so that's a positive thing. It can charge it can charge 4 things. It has 2 USB ports on it, so it can charge your phone or your tablet or whatever, and then it has the capability to pass 2 through the device.
Okay.
Right, so it can charge 4 outputs at the same time, essentially. Now, the problem is on pricing, right? Lenovo sells the hard drive and router as a bundle. So
Okay.
you get your network attached storage router bundle.
Yep.
All right, it's $220, which is a lot.
How much was that thing Jeremy was showing off last week?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going
I'll
to talk
tell you
about
in a
that
minute.
today. Yeah, we're going to talk about it today. So that's expensive. I want to say it's probably about $80 overpriced from what I would expect to see for comparable things on Newegg or Amazon. The Bluetooth speaker is $99. Now, if you compare that to a Jawbone Jambox Mini, it's about $20 higher.
Okay.
So
It's not bad.
This is
It does sound pretty good.
It sounds pretty good. It's within reason. And then the battery is kind of the biggest offender here because they want $69 for it. And you can literally find batteries with 10,000 milliamp hours on Amazon for like $10.
Yep.
Now, are they great ones?
I would say the quality of that.
It's probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, the difference is obviously you have this interface here that doesn't exist on any of those other accessories we talked about.
Right.
You have the capabilities and kind of the cool factor of it being
for the
stacking.
cool packaging and
duct tape and cables.
Duct tape and cables. I mean, it has an easy footprint.
Easy glue and
just think of-
neodymium magnets.
If you had these individually and you were trying to travel, think of the mess of cables you would have just trying to hook these things together, right? Like you'd have network cables, you'd have like just USB cables.
Well, you wouldn't have any network cables.
You wouldn't have to.
Yeah, I guess.
You'd have
You'd
have chargers
USB.
for things.
You'd have several USB cables at least.
I do want to say in the video I did of this, I misspoke and said you can only have 4 devices. You can actually have 5, but they only make 4 things. So the 5th one you add would be another battery.
Yep.
So you could have a second 10,000 milliamp hour battery, which would be okay
Bluetooth
too.
Someone was saying they should make a Pico projector.
A Pico projector. I've heard people say in the comments that they should make like a mini PC that takes a part of it as well, like some.
If they made a Pico
like a
projector,
Lenovo
that would
brick.
make sense.
If you get a Pico projector and a mini PC
and
like 2 10,000 milliamp hour batteries, and now you have this completely portable
brick
laptop without a keyboard and mouse.
Make
That's
more
what they
sense
need.
to
A little mini
put
keyboard.
the projector on it and cell phone control it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that
you could
would
work
be the
that.
way to show it off.
Cell
Is,
phone
ooh, look
keyboards
what I
and
can do
stuff.
with my
could
cell
make-
phone.
But if you had all of this and you added a Pico projector and a mini PC,
Yeah.
like now you got
you
way
would
too
just
much.
have a
you got way too much stuff.
Lenovo Yoga tablet.
Right, but in a totally unique form factor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to buy this that are like consumers. This is obviously targeted at business users that want something neat, clean. It matches all their other stuff.
Yep.
It's simple to set up. It's easy to use, but it is pricey.
Yeah, it is.
It is pricey. I think it'd be like if we had this to take to CES, I could see it being useful, right? We go into the hotel, we attach the Wi-Fi router to the hardwired network. We have the Bluetooth speaker, so we don't have to listen to each other breathe. Maybe we use the hard drive to share data instead of using SneakerNet on USB 3, USB keys and stuff. Hey, drop all those pictures onto the hard drive.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We're dumping large amounts of media.
Usually we are. So I don't know. I think it'd be interesting to try and mess around with that stuff. But that is Lenovo Stack. You can see we've got a review of it on the website. If you want to see such things, we got stacks, yo.
Fat stacks.
Fat stacks, yo. Moving on again. This time we are going to talk to Jeremy about those things. Oh, you missed this in the rundown.
Apparently.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll talk
They
about
don't
these.
exist. But yeah,
EMTEC, previously known as BASF.
What's
Well,
that other thing?
it's a spin-off of BASF.
Yeah, okay. What do you got?
So, essentially, the thing that you just showed us, except less than half the price.
Okay.
So, if you're actually looking to carry one around, we've already sort of run into the second one, so I will show it off second because we did talk about it. Where is my camera here? This one is the hard drive version. So, a little bit less impressive. You got a power button, USB 3.0, a reset button for those of us that occasionally forget passwords and need to reset stuff, and a LAN connection. It comes in 500 gig and 1 terabyte versions. It is a nice little Wi-Fi hard drive. I'm not in love with the price of the 500 gig model, which is $100. The 1 terabyte is $120.
Does it do router stuff?
It does not.
Okay.
So that there's no hotspot connectivity in this whatsoever. It won't charge anything. It is just a very plain and simple hard drive, which comes with software, which also applies to the Power Connect that I will talk about in a second. And so it comes as either a web app that you just hit. If it's up and live, you can either program it to have a specific IP or plug it into your network and just use it as network attached storage. And with the EMTEC Connect software, you can also load that onto an iOS or an Android device and just connect to it directly by the phone. So your phone now has a terabyte worth of storage just hauling around with it. It's relatively fast. It is a spinning disk, so it's not super fast. I was going to tear it open to see what it was, but it's too pretty to destroy. I don't think this one's going back together. I really don't. But the nice thing about it, now that I sort of lost my place, is that this comes if you use the app as opposed to the web interface. It has Dropbox connectivity. So you fire up Dropbox, you enter in your credentials, and boom, it starts syncing from the cloud.
That's cool.
That's really
That-
cool.
Is there a copy of your
literally nothing else other than entering your username and password. I've played with other things with Dropbox where it's not necessarily that easy. You know, I need you to update the app. I need you to do this, that, and the other thing. This one was just boom, done. It's brilliant because I've got some people that work that really want to keep their Dropbox on their ultra mobile laptop and get very frustrated when it immediately fills up after 100 gigs of pictures or so are downloaded. Here you go. Put it on this. Just leave us alone, and don't put any company proprietary data on it.
That's a good plan.
Yeah, and much like the other one, this is their branding is a little red nipple. I kind of like it because it's an obtuse, but
I thought that was Lenovo's branding.
On this one, it prevents you from standing it up straight on the one side.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Perhaps not the best.
Yeah.
So it's more or less just a Wi-Fi hard drive with a nice little interface to it. But honestly, this from last week, my pick of the week, I still really love this thing because it does everything that one can do, depending on the size and type of SD card that you put into it, which Al was so nice to tell us about earlier.
Right.
Via the interface right there.
So it has a micro SD slot on it.
It does indeed. I don't know how fast it reads, and they weren't quite sure either at the company that sent it to me.
Probably not UHS-2.
I don't think so. But this one is perfect. It's like 150 grams. It's a little bit shorter than the size of a deck of cards. You toss it in your bag, you don't even think about it. Everything has nice rubber stoppers on it, so your lunch doesn't end up in your ports. Very important. This one does do the hotspot. As I mentioned, I did have a couple of issues where it would drop, where I was using a cell phone, which would immediately drop the connection to this in preference of the signal from the Wi-Fi router if I was just using it as a Wi-Fi extender. If I plugged it into the network, then all of a sudden, it was actually providing as good a connection, and my Android tablet wouldn't swap over. One of the tests I did was at a pub. Presented it to 5 guys of varying ages and said, here, this is this device, I'm putting it on, check your Wi-Fi network, look for it, and see if you can figure it out. Within 30 seconds, they were all streaming the Dead Parrot sketch that I put on there. So it is super easy to use. And much more fun than this cold.
I bet.
So the other thing is it's 5,200 milliamp battery. So a little more than half of what yours was for less than half the price. This guy, $50. At $50, it's hard to beat.
I agree. I think that's. I mean, considering your transfer speed you're looking at, having an a micro SD card in there is probably fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh god, you're getting N. That's the best you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, over
and this one's USB 2. The other one's USB 3.
So you could do most of the functions of a stack. Bring your own micro SD card.
It's true.
You can do everything but the Bluetooth speaker.
But how much is a 512 gig micro SD card?
Micro SD?
Oh, you can't get that.
No.
128?
Those are pricey, but like 50 cents a gig-ish.
So $65, just $60, $70 for the...
For 128 gig.
For 128 gig.
Or you buy a bunch of 32s, which would probably end up being cheaper.
Keep swapping them. Insert disk
Nobody
2.
likes to swap.
Why not?
Insert disk 3.
Nobody wants to swap.
Insert disk 4.
It would have been
that's
nice if it had a
ridiculous.
full-size SD. It was a little bigger and had a full-size SD slot on it.
Then you can get like a half a terabyte now.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, that's a lot of cash. It's still like 50 cents a gig for those.
Yeah, but
You know, I mean, you're paying 200, high 200s, low 300s for just tiny, you know.
Indeed. All right, everybody, let's take a quick break here before we jump into our world of news. No, we don't. No.
I don't know. I screwed up the rundown, so
That's okay.
what do you want to do?
That's all right. No, let's just talk about this. This will be quick.
Okay.
I did post another update of the Android to iPhone story. This time, I talk a little bit in editorializing about, hey, what the most dramatic changes moving over from Android to iOS is that some applications either don't work the same way or don't exist, and so I had to find other ones like Sleep Cycle here, which is kind of like an alarm and sleep tracking app that I was trying out. It's one of those ones where you set the phone on your mattress next to your pillow, and it tries to keep track of where you are in your sleep cycles or whatever. I don't really make any claim of how accurate or inaccurate it is, but it works fine as a alarm, if nothing else.
Yep.
Talk about the camera. You can see a picture of my daughter right there, using her pacifier with the Tiger attached to it. The main purpose of this update was to talk about performance of the SoC. And this will all be kind of wrapped up into a full review eventually, but I thought it was interesting to look at a couple of specific tests, right? So Geekbench is a synthetic CPU performance test. It is not like a user experience evaluation performance test, but it is interesting to see how the iPhone 6s Plus and the iPhone 6s just do better than everything else out there, right? So this is integer score for single core, or this is overall score, I'm sorry, single core versus multi-core. At single core, the A9 is significantly faster than anything else, including the A8X, which was on the iPad Air 2.
Yep.
And if you look at the Snapdragon 810 and the OnePlus 2, or the 808 and the LG G4, it's more than twice as fast in terms of synthetic performance, single-threaded.
What's the blue?
Blue is multi-core, multi-threadedness. So keep in mind that the A9 is only a 2-core part.
Right.
Right? The A8X is a 3-core part.
Oh.
Right? The Snapdragon 810 is an 8-core part. 4 big, 4 little. And then the LG G4 with the SD808 is a 6-core part with 2 big, 4 little.
Huh.
All right? So, like, this kind of scaling here from the 810 to the 808 makes sense, but clearly the multi-threaded performance of the A9, even with only 2 cores, is able to match essentially the performance of every other part out there.
Yeah, because it's going so much faster.
Which is really, really impressive.
Yep.
And you can kind of see how that breaks down here in terms of the integer look, where the A10 is faster, but if you look at the floating point, the A10 is slower than the A9s.
Huh.
Keep in mind, these are all sorted by the green bar, the single-threaded scores here.
Yeah.
So, you look at things like Google Octane, which is a browser-based JavaScript test. There is a caveat here. The Apple devices were tested with Safari. The Android devices are tested with Chrome, not any integrated browser.
Right.
So the OnePlus 2 does not have anything but Chrome, so that's fine. But people in the comments point out that, hey, if you ever test a Samsung device, Chrome performs much worse than the Samsung browser.
Really?
It does. And that's pretty much been the case forever, right? Because the developers of the phone, Samsung or LG or whoever, kind of tweak the browser for their design. More specifically, Chrome is a more generic
Wouldn't have thought it would
application.
make that much of a difference, though.
Pretty big differences from what I've seen. But if you look at like Google Octane, like the A9, way faster than anything else out there. If you look at SunSpider, the A9, again, way faster than anything else out there. There are many people that do not like these benchmarks. A lot of people think Geekbench is misrepresentative, but a lot of people think that SunSpider and Octane and Kraken get gamed by
The browser guys?
By the browser guys.
Possible.
But if it improves the performance of JavaScript, then I don't really care.
Yeah.
Right. You can put less weight behind it, but I think it's still a valid result. Now let's look at let's just look at 3D Mark here. Like, this is graphics. This is impressive as well. The A9 GPU is way faster than the SD810, Snapdragon 810 with what's that, Crate 430? I can't remember what the actual GPU is in here now. But graphics score significantly higher on the A9. And then physics score, again, this is kind of like your CPU-based version of these tests. The A9's much faster than the 2 Snapdragons, even though the A8X is at the bottom of the pack in that one, which I find to be quite interesting as well. Then we've got more graphics tests here. You can look through some of our graphics bench. This one's interesting. So keep in mind, like, this one says native, meaning it's running at the native resolution of the screen, which on the S6 Plus is 1080p, right? that right?
On the S6 Plus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the S6 is something less. I can't remember what it is.
That's closer to 720.
Yeah. So that's why the advantage is so high for the 6S here, is because it's got, even though it's got the same SoC, it's rendering for a smaller screen or lower resolution, so it has bigger advantage. Meanwhile, the LG G4 has a 2560 by 1080 or 2560 by 1440 screen, and so its score is surprisingly low.
Well, yeah, it's pushing like a lot more.
Not
pixels.
Surprisingly low, but it is exceedingly low, I'll say. But if you look at the same test with
only at 1080p.
normalized, right?
Okay.
It's you're doing it off screen. You're running it at 1080p. You see that the 6S Plus is just a tiny little bit faster, and these scores are still significantly slower, but at least somewhat normalized, right? So keep in mind, like, this is 1150 and this is 1193 for the OnePlus 2, because it's also a 1080p screen. So in theory, if you look at the S6 Plus at 2379, yeah, that's about 100 points difference there. So keeping in mind that stuff. And you can see T-Rex, another older test in terms of graphics results. All of this leads me to that the processor in the iPhone 6S and 6S Plus is just better than everything else out there. Now,
well, I mean, they basically doubled over the previous generation of their own phone. So,
yeah, more or less, like, and if you look at
more
synthetics,
or less,
now,
and there are a lot of other things that they claim doubled as well, like storage performance and other. Like,
right.
So it's not like just the processor's faster. Like, a lot of the stuff is faster compared to this previous generation. So,
the now Qualcomm's 810 has been out for a little bit longer. The 820 is coming out soon. Snapdragon 820. So we'll know more about that relatively quickly, I think, in terms of where it stands, in terms of performance improvements and some of these things. So it'll be interesting to see later in the month or next month when that actually
They're probably just going to leapfrog.
They'd have to do a lot of work to do that, right? Like, if you see some of the places where the 810 is behind, like 20 in single-threaded performance, it's behind by a lot. Now, in multi-threaded performance, they could improve it by 50% or 25%.
But they're doing that because they have a lot more cores.
Yeah, correct.
A lot more.
A lot more. Yeah, indeed. All right, so now we'll take a quick break to thank a sponsor of today's... Oh, guess what? My email logged me out.
Oh,
you've got to be kidding me.
Gotta go email.
And I don't need to double verify, so that's totally fine. We don't need notes for this. We're going to thank today's podcast sponsor, which is Casper, Josh's favorite sponsor of ours, because we get to talk about sleeping and mattresses and that type of stuff, right, Josh? You got nothing.
He's sleeping.
He's asleep. Cover.
Oh yeah, it's a zippable. Yeah, it actually does have a removable cover. I don't want to make the claim of being waterproof, but I will say that it's removable.
But you should get one of those separately.
You'll find out sooner or later.
Actually, I mean, it's a foam mattress, so you don't really...
Will it take my rubber sheets? That's what I'm asking.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely do that. Casper, for those of you who don't know, is an online retailer of premium mattresses at a fraction of the cost. They're revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing the savings on to you, the consumer. The Casper mattress is obsessively engineered at a fair price. It uses latex and memory foam to come together for better nights and brighter days, as they say. It's a comfortable mattress that has just the right amount of sink and bounce to it and provides long-lasting comfort and support. I actually got a Casper mattress. I think I got it before, before the baby was born?
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks before the baby was born, or 4 weeks before the baby was born. Actually, it was right before my wife went into the hospital and where she was on bed rest.
So you got it just in time to go sleep on the cot.
Right, I got it just in time for me to go sleep on a cot, which made all the difference in the world coming back to a really good mattress. And also, when you have an infant newborn baby, it is important to get as much time with that sleep as possible.
All the help you can get.
Right. Quality sleep is just as important as quantity sleep in this case, because you don't get to control the quantity, but you can control the quality.
Yes.
And that's where Casper came in. You buy it online. It's completely risk-free. You can try sleeping on a Casper mattress for 100 days. And if you don't like it, they'll take it back. No questions asked.
So we know the answer to that? Like, they actually come get it?
They come take it away. Huh. Now, they don't resell it.
Well, obviously.
That would be weird. But they recycle it.
Yeah.
And they come take it away. They also deliver the mattress to your door. And it comes in a box. Mine was a king-size mattress that weighed about 100 pounds.
But it was in a relatively small box.
I mean, It was a big box, but it was a relatively small box for a
wasn't
king size
mattress
mattress.
size.
It wasn't a mattress size
Correct.
box,
It was not mattress size. So you take it upstairs, you open it up, and it kind of poof expands, and then boom! Now you've got a mattress. All their mattresses are made in the USA, and you can avoid the awkward stares of the mattress salesman when you try out those mattresses.
You don't want
in the
someone
store
imagining what you're going to do on that
for
mattress
45 seconds. Yeah, I imagine that's like a really awkward thing. Like I want to get I got to be on my side. I got to get in my cozy position.
We want to
with
try
the pillow.
everything that we would try on this mattress.
Yep.
I'm going to need you to turn around.
And we want you to watch.
Oh no, Jerry wants you to watch. I want the guy to turn around. So here's what you guys do. If you can get a Casper mattress for $500 for a twin or $950 for a king size, and comparing that to industry averages, that is an outstanding price point. You can save an additional $50 as one of our audience members by going to casper.com/PCPER and then using the promo code PCPER. Casper.com/PCPER and promo code PCPER. Try it out. Completely risk-free, 100 days. I don't know if that's 99 nights or 100 nights. I'd be curious what the exact thing is there.
I think you'll probably know by then. So
Yeah. I mean, that's 3 months.
No,
more
let's just give it another 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we thank Casper for their support of the PC Perspective podcast. All right. Now, let's talk about some news items. We got a lot, so we're gonna do that.
Crunch.
tap dance.
I can only
That's-
snap.
That's
how
the
you
worst
dance.
tap
That's how you
dancing
tap
ever.
dance.
That's called tapping your toe to the music. But hey, you know.
But except
You don't know if this is my foot or my finger. You can't see me.
if that's your foot,
I've got a peg leg. Shut up.
just tapping on the desk. I think we talked about this maybe a little bit last week. I don't know if we did. Dell, they kind of announced all their Skylake products. They announced a new XPS 13 with Skylake.
13?
Yep,
Oh, okay.
with Skylake and Thunderbolt on it. They announced an XPS 12 that was like 2-in-1 convertible, and then they announced this, which is the XPS 15, which is essentially the XPS 13
Just big.
with the InfinityEdge screen and all that, but it's just bigger.
Okay.
And I think it looks awesome.
So is that the size of like a 14
14-inch. Yep.
That is pretty close.
So you get the 15-inch screen and a 14-inch body.
Yeah.
Because I never carry a 15-inch laptop, but I might
be
like
stretched to
that.
14.
I might like that.
Because you've got a 13 point. No, yours is 12.6.
Yeah.
But it has a bezel of a 15-inch.
It's the same size as your XPS 13.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's the same exact size as your 13-inch.
Right, but a 12-inch instead of a 13.
It's 11.6.
Oh, 11.6
Yeah.
versus 13. Okay. So the XPS 15 is it's based on Skylake, obviously. It's Core i3 6100 or an i5 63 or an i7 6700, up to 8 gigs of RAM. You can even get it with a discrete GTX 960 GPU.
Wow.
In there,
That's awesome.
which is kind of interesting. It is a 15.6-inch display, 1080p version, or the 4K version with the touchscreen. Okay. We had the same debate last time where I would go with the 1080p.
Yeah.
It's way better on battery life.
It's a bigger
and
screen,
not
though.
touchscreen. And not that I have anything against touchscreen, but I just think the displays look and feel a little bit different.
Yeah. And I mean, 15
comes
inches
to
is
that.
still small enough to where 1080p is okay.
Oh, it
think
looks
so.
fine.
Yeah. Like I said, optional is GTX 960M graphics, up to looks like it says 32 gigs of flash. No, okay, so they got hybrid drives, or you can get PCIe SSDs. You got HDMI, USB 3.0, Thunderbolt 3 on this one as well, and starting at 3.9 pounds for the non-touch version.
So we know what it costs with like a middle of the road with the discrete GPU, or like can you get
I
the
don't
middle
know.
processor with a discrete GPU?
Starting at $999 for the Core i3 non-GPU,
Nobody
non-discrete
wants
GPU
that.
version.
$9.99.
I'd be curious. Like, I think it would be really interesting to test to see again. And we had this discussion last time. Like, does the discrete GPU of the Surface Book or of this?
Well, this is going to be much more powerful.
Yeah. No, I mean, does it impact battery life even if I'm not using GPU things? Because if it does, I don't want that. Because for me,
Is it not switchable?
no, it is. I'm sure it is.
Oh.
But if the GPU is sitting there,
I mean, it's less than idle if you're not even using it.
well, I don't know if it's not idle. Like it comes down to, are they using, what do they call that?
Optimus.
Optimus, NVIDIA Optimus. I haven't heard that brand in forever, so I have no idea. Yeah. So that's the XPS 15. I've asked for one for a review. I've actually asked for all three of them, the 12, the 13, and the 15. So we'll see what shows up and what doesn't. But I like my XPS 13 a lot, so I'd be curious to see what the advantages are here in terms of battery life.
Still has the webcam that looks up your nose.
It still has a webcam that looks up my nose. That's true. That's a disadvantage. Jeremy, real quick, tell me about the hard quarter for PC sellers.
Well, am I muted at this point?
Nope. No.
Sorry, I've been muting myself out of proactivity just to make sure that I'm not sneezing on you.
Understood.
It's been a hard year for PC sales. This last particular quarter, globally, 73.7 million units of laptops, desktops, and ultrabooks are sold, which is down just under 8% from this time last year. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Pretty much everywhere but North America, prices have jumped up because, well, the American dollar isn't doing too bad. This is going to slow down your sales. This is also the last half before holiday season, and most of the companies don't hit the black until, Q4, just because of all of the Thanksgiving sales, Christmas sales, and that. So we can hope to see sales increase, especially since we're now starting to see Skylake products. And literally, you just got your first one, didn't you?
Yeah. This MSI is the first Skylake laptop. Yeah.
So we haven't seen that sale start yet. Windows 10, obviously, since the vast majority of people either ignored it, upgraded it for free, or are holding it off for new hardware, aren't even looking at buying anything until new hardware comes out. So, we're going to see some changes for the final quarter of the year. On the other hand, strangely, Lenovo, no matter how much it's been in the news lately for perhaps not the most beneficial of reasons, is up about 20% in sales. This could be because they created the stack and a bunch of new 2-in-1s that have come out, and a couple of other the laptop you were just talking about.
Yep.
So they've actually been launching a bunch of new product, and amazingly enough, you launch new product, your sales tend to go up. So it's going to be interesting to see what this last quarter holds. Hopefully we are going to see sales spike up, because a lot of the companies, up to and including Intel, who've just announced what their quarter is like. And for Intel, it's still huge tracts of money. But compared to what they were doing last year, it's almost bloody embarrassing, and you don't want to talk about it. So we'll see what the last quarter brings.
Fair enough. All right, so ASUS had an event, and we have a lot of ASUS things to talk about here. We're going to go through them relatively quickly. If anybody has anything important that they think it needs to be pointed out about this, any of these individual devices, please speak up, or forever hold your peace, or whatever that's supposed to be said. So they announced two motherboards, the ROG Maximus 8 Impact Mini-ITX Z170 motherboard. Josh, does this look appealing to you? Oh, never mind. Josh went MIA.
It's tiny and cute.
It is, and it packs a lot of stuff. Look at the size of that sound card.
That's a big sound card.
The sound card riser on this is pretty intense. It's a $248 motherboard on NewEgg for sale already. And then you also have this riser board for all your power delivery circuit.
We've seen that before.
Yeah, we've seen that before. I like the styling. I like the coloration. You've got...
Nice, almost too small to really impress anybody.
I know.
It's hard to see all that nice, fine detail they added to it.
I'm not sure you could fit a single more IC on that board.
It would be tough.
Yeah.
802.11ac MU-MIMO is on this.
2x2.
2x2. Yep. You got USB 3.1, one Type A and one Type C connector, 6 more USB 3.0 ports. This is all powered by the Intel USB 3.1 controller, which is Alpine Ridge.
Yes.
Which is a Thunderbolt controller as well, but they don't mention Thunderbolt on this.
No, but at least it's got a Type C.
Right. Pretty impressive stuff, right? And so it's Skylake ready. It's a Z170 motherboard. It's got pretty impressive sounding audio, and by sounding I mean by looking at the specs, not like I haven't actually heard the audio out of it yet.
It's got Hyperstream.
It has this motherboard. This tiny ass motherboard has 5 fan headers.
What?
So,
2 4-pin on board and 3 4-pin on a daughter card.
Oh, okay.
So apparently you can add just about one more thing to this board.
Well, you can build a case out of fans with the board.
Ooh.
Bluetooth 4.1, 4.0 LE. And does this one does not have DP output like
No.
HDMI 2.0, right? It's just HDMI 1.4B. Okay. So still pretty impressive there, and you've got room for a full-size graphics card. Now, the second motherboard is the Maximus 8 Extreme Z170 motherboard. It's a full-size ATX board. Very similar specifications when you kind of look at a whole bunch of things here.
Just bigger.
Just bigger, more slots.
Yeah.
Right? So this, you have Intel, the i219V networking. It's got the Game First technology in there. You've got a ton of PCI Express slots. Let's see. By 16, yeah, I guess it's going to do 4-way SLI and Crossfire. Yep. It comes with the OC Panel 2 that kind of fits in an open 5.25 inch bay. If you don't have one of those, it'll stand up on your desk.
Everyone's got an open 5.25 inch bay,
right.
let's be honest.
M.2 socket, supporting all the available sizes. It's got a U.2 connector sharing PCIe with the M.2 connector, 2 PCI Express, 8 SATA 6 gigabit ports, 4 USB 3.1, 1 Type A and 1 Type C via the Alpine Ridge, and then 2 more Type A via the ASMedia USB 3.1 controller. So that's kind of an interesting mix there.
We got a lot more motherboard software to benchmark too, apparently now.
AI Suite 3 is still there, yeah. Plenty of USB 3.0, 2.0's on there. There's a lot of stuff.
Game First 3 and 4. There's
boot logo size adjustment. Like the interesting things that when you get down to it, like motherboards and systems are so easy to build now that they have to find these interesting things.
Yeah.
Boot logo size adjustment. Right.
Yep. Secure erase from the UEFI.
Yep. Secure erase from UEFI. That's a new thing. And I think the board, again, styling and coloring, unique, new again. They kind of add a lot of gray, kind of a slate look to a lot of things. I think it'll be pretty impressive. And I believe, did we have a price on this one yet? No,
probably a lot.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to say expansive. That's my guess.
400-ish, I would guess.
Let's talk about notebooks. Who here wants a water-cooled notebook?
Are you just giving them out?
Yeah. First person raise their hand. Sorry, it was Alan.
Well, you win some, you lose some.
And nobody at home raised their hands. That's very disappointing. So we talked about this.
It's a little worrying.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit already. The GX 700 being a Skylake laptop powered by GTX 980, but also water cooled by this growth out the back of it.
Yeah.
So it's a 17.3 inch IPS. 6820 HK. It has similar specifications to this MSI machine.
Yep.
But it is nutso that they are water cooling it.
Well,
right?
you'd be able to overclock it further, probably.
You will be able to water overclock it further because of it, right? And so they've got like quick disconnects on the back of the system.
Yeah, it's like a dock, right?
Yeah, you just kind of push it and slide it in. And so they show these.
How do they take care of air in the tubes when inevitably?
Is there an airlock there?
Well, I mean, the air would roll back up to the reservoir, which is in the back, but
maybe then you vent it. Maybe it vents itself.
It's probably a vented reservoir.
Oh, it should be MechWarrior themed. If your mech's getting too hot, you vent the cooling.
Yeah.
Or
there we go.
Yeah, like those Ricer cars that
what
hit the valve every time they change.
Ball-off valve?
Yeah, there you go.
Valve?
That's what it sounds like. So they show the inside of the cooling system of the GX 700 in some of these diagrams here. So you can see that it is a fairly robust design. I think that it's a vapor chamber. Like some of them are vapor.
It's using vapor chamber to get. It's like a water cooled vapor chamber.
To a block.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. So a water block is not actually on the GPU.
Heck, the water block doesn't even look like there's any water flowing through that whatsoever, and so it's almost like it encompasses the block on the back.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it water cools over that block.
That's my guess.
Yeah, so then air wouldn't be an issue because it's just a physical heat transfer connection between a copper block on the back.
Maybe it's just mating.
But there are definitely quick connects in the back of the machine.
But the quick connects might. Well, I don't know. We'd have to see better.
How much fun is it if you mate those together and no fluids come out?
Yeah.
If I had a toddler.
Or all the fluids came out.
Oh no! My unknown price laptop. Exact numbers on battery capacity, dimensions, and weight are not yet available, and pricing and availability have not been announced. Man, that's nutso.
5 minutes, 20 pounds. What else do you need to know?
Yeah.
First, we've got external GPUs and docks. Now we've got water cooling and docks. What's next?
The idea of the water-cooled GPU, like if it has the capability of when it's plugged into the water, it automatically does this overclocking profile. And that nice. Overclocking profile is substantial enough for me to warrant not the cost of it, but just the hassle of having to connect it every time. Right? And if it has that capability, then I'll give it a shot. It might be worth it. It won't be worth it, right? None of these $5,000 machines are really worth it, but it might be interesting and cool.
Does it at least like add port breakouts? It doesn't, does it?
I don't see any of that on there.
That's annoying.
Yeah, I don't
like.
Really
it should be a docking station as well. If I'm going to have this thing on my desk,
I would agree. I mean, maybe it does. I don't know for sure that it doesn't, but similarly, I think maybe based on the same system, this is the ROG G752 G-Sync gaming laptop. Again, 17.3 inch.
It's the one you might buy.
It's the one you might actually purchase because you're not crazy. And it has a 3D vapor chamber design, as you can see here.
It's got an ion drive strapped to the back.
It's kick ass. It can fly places now.
Oh yeah.
So this is.
It won't give you much thrust.
No,
it'll give you a long lifespan.
Right. So they talk about some of the advantages here. Titanium and plasma copper color scheme is new. New cooling system. Ergonomically designed keyboard features 2.5mm key travel distance, which is a lot, I think, for a gaming notebook. Again, available in only a 17.3-inch 1920 by 1080 G-Sync panel. Available with a 980M, 970M, or 965M. Apparently, this one doesn't have an option for the GTX 980 from ASUS there. What do you think about that color scheme, guys? What do you think about the silver and chrome? What do they call it?
Silver and gold?
Copper.
Sounds like
Plasma
lives.
copper.
No?
No
Burl Lives?
No.
Come on, man.
You want to talk about a bezel on a laptop?
It's almost Christmas.
That's a bezel right there. That's a big bezel. It's a big bezel, as somebody else in this podcast would say. Again, no pricing, no information on that yet, but it'll be soon. And then what else we got from ASUS? How about a giant-ass router?
It's missing 4 more antennas.
It's missing antennas?
I mean, you can't go back after you've seen that other one with the 8 antennas.
Yeah, that's true.
Anything else just looks inadequate.
Switch.
But it has 8 of something else. Scroll.
Oh, what? Switch.
Actually, it has 9, I guess. But
yeah.
Well, it's going to win.
You have to really need that.
Well, sure.
You know,
to really need any of these things we have shown
to
so
justify.
far.
No, I mean, like, I don't know.
Well, let's be honest.
The RT-AC88U, by the way, MU-MIMO router.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense that our current really powerful routers only have 4 gigabit Ethernet ports on them.
Right.
It's just like that the router is not usually in a place that has 8 lines coming straight out of it and going in different directions. Like, the router wouldn't be in that same place typically.
Some people are smarter and they pre-wire their house with Ethernet. And then a contractor comes in and cuts all of the Ethernet.
Yeah, that's what happened to yours. But like,
that's the way it works.
I mean, actually, I have a junction box, but like, and a 8-port gigabit Ethernet switch would be great there. But that junction box is also the worst possible place to put a router in my house.
Yeah,
like wireless.
Yeah,
so,
I understand.
You know, it's kind of like, it's nice that they're together, but, you know.
802.11ac MU-MIMO, data rate up to 3,100 megabits per second. It's using, what are these, Broadcom chips? 3 of them in there. It's got 128 megs of NAND in there. It uses DDR3 memory. Gigabit WAN, 8 gigabit LAN. You can see it. Look at all that stuff there. What is this? PA2G 2 gigahertz. I don't know what that is. What is a PA and LNA? Anybody?
LNA? Those are the radios.
Okay. Oh, okay. Then we list the bottom numbers there.
Yeah.
Detachable dual band by 4. It's got a USB 3.0 port and a 2.0 port. And it's got all those things on them. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't look as impressive as the 8-arm beast that we saw before. And again, pricing and availability are not yet known.
I want that 8-arm beast, like, just mounted to like the ceiling in my living room or
pointed
something.
Down. Yeah.
Just like pointed down. Just like,
yeah. Well, it's like when you go to like office buildings and hospitals and stuff where they're pointed down, kind of from the ceiling. Yeah, just like that. Jeremy, let's see. 2 ROG desktops. Anything interesting here? G11 CD, G20 CB, other than awesome model names.
Awesome model names. They look like ROG machines because we were all familiar with that red and black.
Yep.
They're both freaking tiny.
Oh, really?
The one's 6.9 by 17 by 17, more or less, which for a desktop that you can have a Titan X in is kind of impressive.
It's pretty small.
This one definitely looks more interesting.
Tiny, but at least it's small. And these guys come with a great range. They go from the X98 Ti all the way down to an X745, which seems to have been relatively recently announced. Or
I have never heard
revealed.
of a GTX 745, so sure.
No, or just recently revealed, as the case may be.
Yeah.
This guy comes with just about everything that you would want from one of these. If you want a Blu-ray writer, you can have one, because some people still do use optical. The other one, the ROG G20, is a little more impressive. This guy is a mere, where was it? 4 inches by 13 inches by 14 inches. It's got an external power supply on it. It literally, if you look on the back of it, it has a power plug on it, and it's for the model that's using the Titan X. I'm impressed because they've gone with a 180 watt and 230 watt power adapter.
Right. Yeah.
Which is tight. I mean, you add in the fact that it's got one of the top end i7s in there. If you want to go crazy, you can put 32 gigs of RAM, which is going to be a tight fit, but will fit. M.2, 2 hard drives. Well, sorry, 1 2.5-inch SSD and 1 full-sized hard drive. It's impressively small and impressively tightly designed. It's also going to be probably crazily expensive. But it is pretty, and a vertically mounted Titan X in there. I want to see one of these things because I'm kind of impressed just to see what it looks like on the inside, how tightly packed that is.
I think this one's pretty intriguing looking. Is this the one they announced as part of the Oculus system building?
Yes, this one's well, some of the models. I mean, like the GT740 ain't going to do it. It's got to have a higher enough GPU. But some of the models are absolutely going to support this, and it's the one that has a single HDMI out on it, so to an extent. But that's got to be 2.0 if it's going to be the Oculus Ready one, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into more ASUS stuff. I told you it was going to be ASUS hour. This is a couple of monitors that they released or announced. Officially announced. I don't know. The ROG Swift PG27AQ. This is a 4K IPS G-Sync monitor, 60 hertz.
The one we saw launched at CES.
The one we saw announced at CES
10 months ago.
Yeah, it's been about 10 months, hasn't it? Yeah. So this is, I think, the first time we have seen a 60 hertz IPS VRR 4K monitor, like 4K IPS 60 hertz. 4K IPS period.
I don't think that's the case.
All the other 4K G-Sync monitors or FreeSync monitors have been TN. I'm pretty sure. Pretty positive. Now, so 4K, it's only 60 hertz, so that's kind of like kind of an immediate drawback for many people. It's like, oh, we're getting used to higher and higher refresh rates. Even our gaming laptops are at 75 hertz now. But keeping in mind this is 4K IPS, still pretty impressive. It does support 4K HDMI at 24 hertz, but obviously you need DisplayPort for all this. This is kind of interesting, right? Because we're starting to see the G-Sync monitors come out that have both DisplayPort and HDMI output.
Yes.
Or input, rather, on them. But I imagine it's 2 different scalars still.
It would have to.
Well, unless they made a new G-Sync module.
It's not VRR through HDMI.
It is not VRR through HDMI, but in theory, they could make a module that does VRR through DisplayPort and then has HDMI input that doesn't do VRR, right? If they wanted to make things simpler for their partners, I guess. But I have a feeling that's not the case. So that is one of the monitors out here. I think maybe the more interesting monitor is this one, the PG279Q, which is a 25 by 14 IPS G-Sync monitor that has a 165 hertz refresh rate on it. So we've moved beyond 144 hertz. We're into 165 hertz being directly supplied by a vendor, not an overclock, not an aftermarket mod or anything like that. It looks almost identical to the ROG Swift that we're used to.
Yep.
The 25 by 14 TN panel that you had for a while that still is kind of, I think, the most popular and most accepted G-Sync panel that was released because it was kind of the first big one that really hit the market.
Yep.
So this is basically the IPS variant of it, and not only do we get a better quality screen, we're getting a higher refresh rate at the same time. So that's impressive as well. Availability on this is going to be before the end of the year, although I don't know pricing again on it. But I would like to try one of. I would like to buy one of these because I think this is.
It's the choice of champions.
I think yes, it is. Like I think.
You can't really ask for much more.
You really can't, right? Until we measure the screen,
you could.
It's easy to. I don't know. Like when the ROG Swift came out as a TN panel, we all said it looked really, really good for a TN panel. But in the back, but in the back of your mind, you always knew it's like, well, but he did say it's for a TN panel.
Yeah.
And when you look at IPS, you always knew it looked better.
The colors are just much more saturated on them.
And to be fair, like this monitor already exists from Acer as 144 hertz IPS G-Sync monitor, but it doesn't have the build quality that this one has.
Yeah.
Right? Assuming this is the same as the ROG Swift we know. Like the Acer model that we have and that you own is it's a great display.
Yeah, but it looks like a toy.
But the rest of it is cheap and chintzy, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of a fix for that. So I'm excited for this. I'm a little bit disappointed that it took ASUS this long to get it out the door, because how long have you had your Acer panel? It's been
March or something like that.
Yeah, it's been a long time. So we'll see if they missed the boat on this and if people are looking for other things. But I think that 165 hertz refresh, even if it's not going to be very different than 144. Like it's not that much higher.
But it's higher.
Well, and so it's going to be a thing people are going to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Say again, Josh.
It could be more washed out at 165 hertz.
That's true. We don't know that.
I would hope that it's not. I mean, they're advertising it like as 165.
They're advertising as overclocked to 165 hertz.
No, this is not this one.
This one is 165 hertz. This is the next monitor we're going to talk about for you.
It gets confusing.
Which does lead us into the next monitor, the Acer Predator X34, which is, I think it's the first G-Sync like ultra-wide monitor, period?
Yes.
Right, so this is a 21:9 aspect ratio, 3440 by 1440 resolution, IPS G-Sync screen, curved. Awesome. And even better is that they kind of say it's a 100 hertz panel. And I say kind of say is because the specifications list it at 3440 by 60 hertz. But in the documentation, in the press release, in the information they sent out to press, they say that it's adjustable and overclockable up to 100 hertz.
I hope there's a turbo button on it.
Can I point something out real quick?
You may.
Look at that stand.
It's great.
That's kind of sexy. I like it.
It's really sexy. It really is. We have one sitting right. I can almost touch it.
We have the FreeSync one.
We have the FreeSync version of this here on another
basically
desk.
The same stand.
It's identical in every way except for the module inside would be my guess. It does look really good, and it has like ground effect lights. It has like LEDs on the bottom of the monitor.
It's an LED strip on the bottom.
On the bottom of it, but you can control it in software to change the color and like the pattern. It can do like pulsing or wave.
Oh man,
or
they should have put it on the back. That would have been a great idea.
Yeah, they should have put it on the
That would be excellent for bias use. You know, when you throw the back bias in with monitors.
Now it's just illuminating your keyboard.
I don't know if it has that capability, but that would be a good idea.
Well,
that would be a good
It doesn't have lights in the back, so no.
No, he's talking about on the bottom too.
You need to.
Well.
So I'm a little bit interested about this overclockable to 100 hertz thing, because in my opinion, if it just worked at 100 hertz, they would just ship every monitor at 100 hertz. My guess is that they're giving some wiggle room for like, hey, maybe not every monitor is going to be able to go 100 hertz. And we called it overclocking for a reason. Or maybe everything is overclockable to 100 hertz, but it does affect the color, as you were saying, Josh. And I think neither of those are great results for this, but they needed a way to make it stand out from the FreeSync version, which is 60 hertz.
It's 75, isn't it?
I'm sorry, 75 hertz. You're right.
Yeah, 75 overclockable to 100. Right?
No.
They didn't talk about overclocking on that one at all.
Oh.
It is 75 hertz.
I wonder if we can overclock it. I'll have to try that.
Well, see, what I'm curious again is like, what is the method for this overclocking on this G-Sync panel?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like built into the OSD where you can try it?
Maybe.
Is it built into an NVIDIA driver in some way that you can overclock it? Because overclocking a monitor is not like a plug-and-play thing. You don't just like sit down and decide you're going to do it. Like, you need to do a little bit more research before you just start plugging stuff in.
You have to know what numbers work.
No, you don't.
Well,
you can just try them,
I guess.
And if it doesn't work, it just
but you're
flashes
going
back.
kind of deep.
You're setting custom resolutions. It just flashes back. Like
Yeah.
it just if it can't set it, then it just returns back.
But it's not such a common thing that people. You know what I mean? It's like
I think it's much less common for anybody to have thought about overclocking their monitor or even what that means.
Yeah, like if you're going to
versus
put
overclocking their GPU.
That's why I think it's dangerous to put that number in like a spec.
The 100 hertz,
like in advertising.
I think it'll either be in the OSD, and you'll enable that, and it will reset the monitor and change the EDID.
I think
it would show up. Monitor, Josh.
Yeah.
Look at the back.
Or it'll be a custom timing in the control panel.
I think it would
when
be,
NVIDIA detects this monitor, they put this timing.
I think it'd be much easier for them to do an EDID thing. Like they could just
look. It's got a chevron.
Why has it got a red handle?
It's got a red handle.
No, that's not a handle. That's a cable. Okay. It's a cable. I think this is the handle.
But it's
is
red.
That gloss?
Yeah. Why is it red?
Is it a glossy back?
Chevron.
I don't know.
Please tell me it's not a glossy back.
Why does it matter? It's the back.
Because it scratches and stuff easily.
When are you touching the back of your monitor?
Don't touch the back of your monitor. Don't look at the back of your monitor.
Don't touch your monitor.
Don't touch your monitor.
House,
look at your monitor.
When you walk into my house, you see the back of a monitor.
Well, then clean it.
No, it's not like that. It's
polish it.
It's in the office, but facing outward.
So I'm saying, just clean it once. It'll be fine. My guess is that everything will run 100 hertz, but it changes color.
Yeah.
And that's why they're willing to do it, but they don't talk about anything else.
Regardless of, like, it will change color running it at a faster refresh. That's how panels work. The color reproduction will get worse. It's just whether that's an acceptable trade-off or not.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, like, if you have a monitor running 144 hertz versus 60 hertz, how drastic on, like, the Swift or your Acer monitor does the color change?
There isn't a color fall off on a Swift.
I'm pretty sure there is.
If you go from 60 to 144 on your Acer IPS, is there a color fall off?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so.
But there wasn't on the Swift either.
No, but Ken was saying that when you go up in refresh rate, you almost always see a color fall off.
The color fall off happens when you go past the spec.
Well, okay, but what is the spec indicating?
Like past what the panel is designed and like rated for and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know,
I wonder if maybe...
In other words, going past that, then you're not driving the pixels for long enough because you're scanning too fast.
Right.
You're not driving them for long enough to get them to like the full range of possible color.
I wonder if maybe the panel manufacturers, probably LG, like, says, hey, you can't call this 100 hertz.
Yeah, but if you run it slower, will your colors become more richer?
No. More richer they will not become.
Damn it.
All right. Moving on again, that's enough monitor discussion. Qualcomm enters server CPU space with a 24-core socketed processor. It looks very familiar. It looks a lot like those Intel LGA parts. Josh, did you read anything about this, and is it interesting in any capacity other than kind of like demonstration purposes?
Boy, that's a big chip.
Yeah, or a tiny person. One or the other.
Boy, you could really bitch slap somebody with that.
So let me ask you this. Just looking at this photo,
yeah,
they could fit more than 24 ARM cores in that processor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wonder how many pins that is. It's got to be
like 2,000,
4,000.
You think that many? Oh man.
Well, think of how big a 2011 processor is, and the pitch is probably the same. So
that's fair. A lot of pins. You know, ARM for server is nothing new. A lot of people have been pushing for it. They've been hoping that it works, and Qualcomm is giving them a better reason for doing this. Something a little bit more integrated, something that is more engineered, something that actually works. It's got a platform that they can actually show off, and you know, it's not like ARM is a bad for processing power, because you can shove a lot of cores in there, and those cores are very small and they're power efficient. and they can do a lot of threads and a lot of things at once. Maybe not as fast as a Xeon, but when you're just talking about something that doesn't need a huge performance, but certainly could use a lot of threads, then these are fantastic, and they're not going to consume a lot of power. I'm curious what the 24-core variant actually consumes in terms of power. I would guess it would probably be 25 to 45 watts. And that's kind of insane when you think about the potential processing power and the parallelization that you were seeing with this type of setup. But a lot of it also depends on the infrastructure around it. I mean, a chip could work well, but you got to have I/O, you got to have peripherals. There's a lot more to it, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, certainly, AMD has pushed that with their server products. Before that, C-Micro was dipping into the ARM ecosystem, and certainly NVIDIA is interested in this as well because they're another ARM licensee. So far, we've only seen them in a lot of cell phones. We've got a couple of interesting laptops that are coming out.
Yep.
And servers are certainly the area where we would be more interested to see in that something that doesn't need to be high performance but handle a lot of threads effectively and efficiently. And this is certainly an area where they could do well. But we're going to see.
We shall
and
soon.
Who knows?
We shall soon. Moving on. Oh, did you guys play any Star Wars Battlefront this weekend?
I watched you play some.
What was it? Was it this weekend?
I played 5 minutes.
You only played 5 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, was Darth Vader.
Affinity is broken in it. So you scope in on somebody and your scope goes onto your left screen and you don't know what the hell you're shooting at.
Yeah. That's disorienting.
That's how the Star Wars universe
really
works.
Yeah. And that, of course, I was playing as a stormtrooper, which explains a lot of things.
It just kept missing.
Yeah.
I did see a video or an animated GIF or something on Twitter. It was like that the developers were really taking canon to heart, and they were playing the single player campaign like very easy, and he just like was standing in front of a stormtrooper who kept just shooting, and the lasers just kept going around him, and he kept getting closer to him until he was like, within reaching distance of it, and it, like every 8th laser shot was hitting.
Oh, he got like really 2 out of 17 or 18. He's got to be a captain.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. I played some of this. I know Ken played some of this, and it's pretty awesome. I was playing some of it on that FreeSync 3440 by 1440 monitor that we were just talking about, and I took some screenshots. And
the screenshots don't do it justice. Like you have to just watching someone else play the game.
It's beautiful in motion.
It really is.
It's
let me zoom out.
I mean, it really is just
like that's awesome looking. Like it's truly impressive. And again, in motion, it looks a lot better. Also, I like the screenshot because I'm about to die. Notice this. Like I was looking up and I was looking for the F10 button to take a screenshot, and then immediately after taking the screenshot,
who shot first?
They did for sure. There's another one here. So like if I look at this one, it's hard to tell in the screenshots. So here we're on the Hoth level. We've got a Star Destroyer.
What?
No. Hang on.
You better get this.
I'm not going to.
I will revoke your Star Trek geek card.
Imperator class?
It's a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, that is a Star.
That's a Super Star Destroyer. What are you talking about?
It's an Imperator class.
But if you look in the skybox here, besides being gorgeous, this is a TIE fighter and/or X-Wing that just exploded. And
that happens often.
Yeah, it does happen a lot. But there's like...
And/or lands in front of you as a steaming wreck.
That's true. There's battles going on in the sky area there. And it's very alive. It's awesome looking.
It's a little unbalanced, but beta.
Well, yeah, it's a beta. It looks gorgeous. The sound effects are awesome.
Yeah, the music changes like right on
Yeah, when Darth
cue
Vader shows up, here he is in my scopes as I get ready to shoot him in the big fat head.
Like you get ready to shoot him below the chin.
Not just when he's close, but when he's in your field of view. Like there was one part where you were coming up over this hill and he was like walking by, like way in the distance, right? And as soon as you saw like a part of the helmet, the music
Imperial
just
March.
all of a sudden got dark
Yep.
and started playing the Imperial March. Yeah, it was just like, wow.
So did you teabag him when you killed him?
He didn't
I
go.
don't-
he only
actually,
bends
I think
over.
in this screenshot, I think I was an Imperial. I can't tell by the scope. No, he was red, so it would have been. And by the way, this guy's name, who happened to be Darth Vader, is "I'm your daddy, ha ha," which
Accurate.
I think is I'm okay with that. That seems reasonable to me. So if you didn't get a chance to play it, the beta is over. It was pretty awesome. It was a ton of fun. It really was.
Yeah.
It had been a long time since I was like, oh, I want to go home and play that game. I want to go home and play that game.
I hope they get it more right when they.
Yeah. So there's only 2 of the maps. Honestly, if it were just those 2 maps, I'd probably still pay $50 for it to keep playing.
Yeah.
Whoa, shut your mouth.
Yeah, I know.
I
Too
want
bad
a
it's
dang,
120, including the season pass.
Yeah, well,
I want some kind of campaign.
there's not going to be.
That I
It's
can
going to be
play
a single
through.
player, like
Just play
co-op
online.
wave campaign. There's not going to be a story. Like, they're not going to tell a story that happened in the movies.
There
Like,
were plenty of times where they've made a game where they tell some kind of a story.
not doing
Well, and
campaign.
come on,
it's a
part of it is
Knights of the Old
sign
Republic.
up.
Come on.
Part of it is sign up, and you can see the Battle of Jakku that created the war-torn planet, which you will see in the upcoming movie.
That's
How can you not make a story? How can you not make a campaign on that?
Right.
Listen,
Actually,
they didn't
two
have
from
a
both sides.
whole lot of time to make this game.
That's true too. It's a large scale multiplayer game. It's not a single player story.
No one cared about the campaign in Battlefield.
Yeah,
so.
nobody-
Here's the
Yeah,
here's the
nobody
thing
gives a
though.
shit.
As pretty as it looks, it's kind of wasted not to have a campaign to play through with
No,
that
it's not.
engine.
Because all these games, so like they put a 6-hour campaign in here, and you know what? You're going to spend 60 hours on the multiplayer. So the more important part is this:
The opposite
they're
applies to
releasing
me.
the new Call of Duty game on old consoles without the single player campaign at all. They're only releasing
Yeah,
the
but
multiplayer.
that's Call of Duty.
I'm just saying it's a multiplayer online.
Hey,
shooter.
guess what? You guys like Battlefield 2? Remember Battlefield 2? How awesome that was?
Didn't
have a campaign.
It's true.
It didn't have shit.
It had everything that made it awesome,
Yeah,
and it didn't have a campaign because you know what? They knew how that war ended.
That wasn't Star Wars.
Right? Yeah. There will be plenty of campaign-based Star Wars games coming out. Battlefront will not be one of them.
Okay. Hopefully the graphics are as good in those other ones.
We'll see who the developers are. I guess real quick, Lexar SD cards. We should have brought this up at the previous time here. This is just an announcement, not a review.
Yeah, it's just news
Up to 128 gigs
on
and
their 2000X
2000X.
model. Yeah, which basically goes almost full speed UHS-2. So it's like
300 megabytes per second.
Yeah.
They say.
Yep.
And then this one, which is slower, but capacity-wise, a 512 gigabyte SD card
Yeah.
that can run. How fast does it go?
It's like 90 something, 95
So
meg
how
per
long
second.
would it take to empty that drive?
Still a while.
Long time.
95 meg per second, but half a terabyte? Yeah.
Yeah, $275. That's less than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's not bad.
How much is this one? $289 for the 128.
29. Yeah,
Super
only
fast.
one. Yeah, but
Does it come with the reader?
Yes.
Okay.
That one comes with the reader because chances are like the reader you have is not going to go that fast.
Yeah, no. Chances are very good at that,
Yeah.
actually. All right, so this is one we have a review upcoming, I assume.
Of the half a terabyte one, not
Yeah.
the other one's not even available to the sample to us yet.
Oh, okay. And then finally, wrapping it up, Jeremy, you wanted to point out our friends at Seasonic told us about this contest. We probably pass it on to you guys. This is hosted at NewEgg, right?
It is indeed. It's got a whole bunch of sponsors, because if you take a look at that grand prize, it's everything, including a chair.
Okay, all right.
That vertigear chair is part of it.
I might have that chair.
And so if you were in the continental United States, so like you, Canada, Hawaii, even Rhode Island is excluded.
Yeah, I don't like those
But
people anyway.
You really have to be within the contiguous United States. You can actually win a pretty kick-ass prize, which is going to have, as you can see there, among other things, GTX 970 amp edition.
Nice.
The processor in that is, if I zoom in so that I can actually see the thing, a 5820K Haswell. So it's perhaps not the newest, but are you going to complain because you got it for free? So take a look at that list of components. You can apply once every 24 hours. So if you think that you're just wait until midnight or just before midnight apply and then do it just after
Wasting
midnight,
it.
No, they're actually making you do it 24 hours apart. Then again, you can only enter 20 times. If you
only 20?
Only 20.
Does it only run for 20 days?
Yeah, how long does it run for, do we know?
Also true.
Yeah.
And if you're a loser and don't manage to pull in the grand prize, you can pick up a full Zotac gaming machine, which is one that we haven't yet seen for review, but is the Magnus Z-Box.
Oh, right.
And hopefully we get to see that, because that's actually a pretty impressive little box.
Indeed.
And second prize is from Zotac, a 970 4GB amp edition. So, hey, apart from the one commenter that just simply said NewEgg is dead to me, the rest of you should probably try and get into it.
Indeed.
Tweet the game like a pro and fill in the email form, and I will hate you forever if you win it.
Let's go into our hardware software picks of the week. Mine is a different Logitech mouse. This is the G502 Proteus Core mouse. I had previously picked the G402, which was the one that we could go super fast with.
Yeah.
This is a wired mouse.
Start fires on the tablecloth.
Exactly. This is a wired mouse that has quite a bit of weight to it that I like a lot. And it is the mouse that I started using when I was playing Battlefront when I went home. And I like it a lot. I like the ability to change between click wheel and non-click wheel status here. You can change the DPI on the fly. A lot of that stuff that you're used to seeing.
Typical Logitech.
But it just feels good. It moves good. And I had no issues with it. It's a $59 mouse, so it's relatively inexpensive in the world of keyboard and mouse accessories these days for kind of a high-end gaming mouse, if you will. And you can use all of the LGS software in here to control macros and all that you would expect to as well. So again, that's a G502 Proteus Core tunable gaming mouse. It says tunable right in the name. Tunable.
Well, if it had been good enough to get in the show notes, maybe I would have been able to read that.
Yeah, well, we were in a hurry.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Jeremy.
Well, I was really torn, but I decided that for legal reasons, I probably shouldn't mention there's a new improved version of the USB killer, which is sort of doubled the amount of voltage it dumps into your computer to fry your motherboard. So instead, I'm going to go with a brand new mod which has come out. It's specifically designed for the Steam version of Deus Ex Revision, or Deus Ex the original, which, because of the Steam sale, is about $1.50, depending on where you are.
Yeah.
It will also work with the standalone version you can get from ModDB for your good old games version if you've picked it up. But for all those people who've tried to play or replay Deus Ex and realized, wow, this came out in the 90s, it looks like ass, and I don't even have a phone with this resolution. This has redone all that. They've dumped in a bunch of new music. They've redone all the textures.
It looks like they got rid of a lot of the green cast as well.
Yes, they did. And all the textures redone. The lighting is redone. There's brand new music in it. For $1 something, if you've ever thought about replaying Deus Ex, if you've never actually played the first one, give it a shot. I've already downloaded and installed it, and I'm poking around with it, and realizing I don't have enough time because this one's a long game. If you remember, there are a lot of...
It is a long game.
Yeah. But it's worth it.
I started playing through it again like a couple months ago, but I just haven't put a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard because it is butt ugly.
Yeah, that was part of the problem. Even if you get
some of the mods that'll up the resolution, this one does a lot more than that.
All right, Josh, you're next.
Me. So at work, we just implemented a new VPN system using OpenVPN. It's really quick. It's very configurable. There's a couple of little goofy things about it. But once you get past that, it's nice. And not only that, but you can do VPN over UDP. Which, shockingly enough, works really well.
So I can play my online games through UDP? Through VPN?
Sure, why not?
A UDP VPN link.
So many drop packets.
Well, here's the thing. It's a lot more... Trouble. Okay, so my boss, who did some testing, he had a really bad connection.
Yep.
And he tried both the standard VPN and then over UDP. And UDP turned out to be much more stable and more resilient to packet loss than the traditional way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can imagine if they design it to handle UDP, then it would have to be able to handle packet loss way more
Yeah, so
gracefully.
timeouts wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, but it's solid
Intriguing.
and inexpensive relatively. It's like $20 a license for
But
a year.
I thought
or
it was
something.
open. You have to pay for it?
Well, it depends on the situation you're in.
That doesn't sound very open to me.
Just letting you know.
Software is free.
Sure.
If it's open enough to be on SourceForge, it might still be the case.
All right, last, Alan, what do you got?
So I've been beating the crap out of Excel lately, and decided to try to do it under the new Office 2016 or 15. Which number?
16.
Is it? Yeah, 2016. And that page I linked to there actually has. It looks like just what's new in Office 2016. You scroll down, and they give you some stuff. It's like basically just you can do this online, and you can do this other thing online, and you can link this with your
Share.
whatever share and this and that thing. But it
Mail
doesn't give you
triage.
it doesn't give you like actual like changes. But what I didn't know until more recently is you can click on those icons at the top of that page to see the detailed or more detailed changes of each thing.
It does tell you that in bold text right there.
Well, I'm ignorant.
If you want to learn more about what's new in a particular app, click its icon below.
Yeah. So if you look for Excel, there's some like new chart types. There's
Ooh, a
other
tree
stuff
map.
in there. And I've noticed that it seems to be able to handle the insanely massive spreadsheet I've been working on faster
Oh, really?
than
That'd be nice.
Yeah, than the previous Office.
That's cool.
Because I have one open right now that's just like takes 2 seconds to update some charts after you change like one number, and it was taking like 4 seconds in the previous Office. So the performance improvement has helped. And there's a bunch of other stuff in there too. So seems
Published to Power B. What?
I don't
Power
know.
BI.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's business intelligence.
They did add. Scroll back up
Blocked
a little
by
bit.
Time Warner, by the way.
So I actually used that feature. There's this tell me thing, which seems kind of dorky on the surface, but it's like kind of a search bar that's at the top. And so you just like, you want to make something. You just like type in kind of plain language, like what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And it gives you a short list of what it thinks those things are. And each thing is like, like I could change the format of the chart I had open right from just that tell me thing. Like I was just like XY chart something. Like I just, I wanted to do something different with the chart, right? Curved lines or smooth
I
lines
need to
or
display
something.
6 dimensions on 2 dimensions.
Yeah.
Can you
So,
help me with this?
I want to show 6 dimensions of data on my 2-dimensional chart. And no, but I typed in like kind of something to the effect of, changing the format of the chart. Like I typed words that were similar to the format I was going for. And one of the options, like it treats it the same way as if you were mousing over the different chart types and it was real time changing the chart just from mousing over the results of the tell me thing. So it's all handled the same way, but it's like search for the toolbar or for
Yeah.
Can we modify it to make it look like Clippy?
I don't know.
I see you want to change chart type.
Make this chart
type.
look like Clippy, and then
No, I see you want to change this chart type.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's kind of doing
Clippy
that, except,
2.0.
except you're not.
Except it works?
It's not in your face. You're prompting it. Yeah,
Nice.
All right.
yeah. Good stuff so far. Hasn't caused like
It hasn't crashed everything.
data loss or crashes or
That's
anything
good.
like that.
That's a good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for this week's episode of the PC Perspective Podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the live stream. If you did so, we record the show on Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific at pcper.com/live. We'd love to have you join us. Hang out in the chat room, ask us questions before and after the show or during it, depending on what the workload is for that particular week. And then if you missed any of the show and you want to catch all of our back episodes, or make sure you're subscribed for future episodes, you want to go to pcper.com/podcast, and there you'll find our RSS links for the audio files, as well as YouTube embeds and links to our YouTube channel as well, which is really hard to find because it's youtube.com/pcper. So we appreciate everybody hanging out. We will see you next week with another episode. For now, I'm Ryan Schraub.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malmontano.
Bye.